Hello, everybody, and welcome inside CFP Today. Thank you for being here. As always, hope you've enjoyed the first week of CFP Today being back in your ears or on YouTube, available anywhere that you catch podcasts, and of course the video version. If you like staring at me rambling into a camera, then you can always do that on YouTube as well. It is on the Canadian Football Perspective YouTube page, which of course is supported by our friends over at Fox 40. Make sure you're going to fox40shop.com to get everything you need for your coaching needs or to get your team up and running going into this year. I wonder if Paul Lapalisse is going to use some Fox 40 products to get the get the old flag thing. I wonder if Paul Lapalisse is going to be accessing all things Fox 40 in order to get the national flag program up and running here. He's already got it up and running. He's been all over the place. But I'm in the booth with Paul this week. Coming up, it will be in Toronto. I get the Calgary Stampeders for both of the first 2 weeks of the season, which is exciting because Vernon Adams Jr., of course, being there at quarterback. Up and down effort, I think. Hamilton sent a lot of those defensive back secondary blitzes that seem to have the offensive line of the Stampeders a little bit confused at times. I'm excited to see whether or not Toronto follows suit. There's a lot of X's and O's that will go into this one because you always talk about overreaction Monday, like I did the podcast here on CFP Today. But then it becomes, you only have that 1 week of real tangible data. Do you overreact to what you saw based on a situational matchup like Hamilton against Calgary or Toronto against Montreal? Or do you say, well, that's what they were against that team, but it's going to be a bit of a different looking matchup against us coming up this week, and how do you handle those things, I think is a great question. That's always kind of the question going into week 2. So looking forward to seeing what this matchup looks like, Calgary and Toronto. Here on Thursday, June 12th, we have Zoom calls with them. We'll be talking to a variety of different players. The Falarna Rimolade Cam Judge trade, I think, will weigh heavy on that broadcast. I also think it's kind of gotten to the point with the Ryan Dinwiddie, Dave Dickinson stuff where it's far enough out. I don't really think we make much of it unless Lapo wants to because he looks at things from a coaching perspective. But one of the interesting moments of last year, I did Calgary-Toronto in Toronto, and I remember asking Ryan Dinwiddie, like, what did you gain from being around Dave Dickinson? What did you take from maybe his coaching style or his staff or the way he organized his practices into what you do? And Ryan basically was like, not a whole lot. I already had ideas on everything I wanted to do. So that very convenient and tidy storyline of Coach B leaves Coach A's facility and takes with him a bunch of stuff and leans on him that gets told over and over and over again. It's not really true, according to Ryan Dinwiddie at the very least when we spoke to him last year. Maybe he was just didn't want to be talking to the media and didn't really have much to say about that. But also coming up for you on Friday night, as we get going here in week number 2, it's going to be a great matchup. The Montreal Alouettes against the Ottawa Redblacks. That will be Ottawa in their home opener. Montreal travels well any time of year, but especially to Ottawa and especially early in the season, coming off of a victory against the Toronto Argonauts. I would think that's going to be a pretty charged up environment, so excited to see what that looks like on the broadcast. But this podcast, I wanted to focus a little bit on a preview of Thursday Night Football coming up tonight. It is the BC Lions against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to get things going in week number 2. And our tremendous stats man, John Perlberg from the CFL and TSN, he had some great breakdowns that he kind of sends internally to us. Some of these get used as what we call like billboards on the broadcast, where there are these the big things that we pull up when we come out of commercial break and we discuss them going back into the start of a drive or something like that. Some of them don't get used, but they're always great numbers, and Pearly always does an amazing job of trying to make us look and sound smarter than we actually are. So I wanted to bring you a couple of his notes from this week as he prepped our entire CFL and TSN crew. And the first one that he put out there was, when you include the postseason, Nathan Rourke is 14-5. He's 14-5 against everybody in the CFL, not wearing blue and gold. He has never beaten the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He is 0-4 against Winnipeg. Completion percentage is 53.6% against Winnipeg. Against everybody else, it's 21 percentage points higher, 74.5, which, by the way, is stupid. But if you take Winnipeg out of Nathan Rourke's career accomplishments so far in the CFL, I mean, they're like legendary numbers already in those two facets. 14-5, 75% completion rate. You factor in Winnipeg, it just drags them back down to earth. And this Winnipeg team, it remains to be seen whether or not they are that dominant force that has that total control over Nathan Rourke, but there's a lot of similar pieces that are in that defense. And yeah, I mean, I get it. Adam Bighill is gone, but you still have Willie Jefferson. You still have good defensive end play on the back end, or defensive back play on the back end. A lot of ball hawks, I think, that challenge and frustrate Nathan. But I would imagine, based on what Nathan is about and how he carries himself and how hard he preps, there's no way that he hasn't gone back and looked at all 4 of these losses at various points, whether it be in this offseason or maybe dabbling into it this week in between practice and the actual tangible game film of watching, Winnipeg last year, which, by the way, comes in without any game film thus far other than preseason, because, and we all know preseason film is pretty useless, which makes things even more difficult for the Lions and for Nathan Rourke. So he is 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Everybody else, it's 34 touchdowns to 19 interceptions. So you get the picture. Like, it's the quarterback rating is way down, and he's had 11 career 300-yard passing games. Only one of them has come against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So that's one of those that for Nathan to, and I gushed about him in yesterday's CFP Today, talking about most outstanding Canadian and how he's going to be in control of that discussion until further notice, it would be a massive stamp of approval if he were able to take down an organization, even early in the season, whatever. It doesn't mean anything. It's just it's in the win column, and it helps you later in the year. It's not a playoff win. It's not a statement victory. It doesn't clinch a playoff spot. Like, none of that. But when you're 0-4 and you've completed 53% of your passes, it would be nice for Nathan to be able to realize, I can beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, because he just hasn't done it in his career. And there's not many things that we can say in Rourke's CFL career so far that he hasn't been able to accomplish. And obviously, whether we're talking playoff wins, Grey Cups, all that stuff, yes, those are to come, TBD. But he's done a lot in a very short period of time because he's been very successful, and he's got to try and take down Winnipeg. The other side of the ball here, I actually thought this one was really interesting from John Perlberg when he passed it along, because Mathieu Betts had that unbelievable season of the Canadian sack record and looks untouchable. And I thought free agency, he's just going to go back to Montreal because it seemed like such a great fit. And there was an opening there at the time, I believe, before they signed Sean Lemon. And then he ends up doing the NFL dance, and then he comes back, and he's with the BC Lions last year. And he had flashes last year when he came back of, wow, this player can be a real game changer, but it didn't feel like the previous year where he was just dominant snap after snap after snap. However, week 1 versus Edmonton, Mathieu Betts had 9 quarterback pressures, which is first in the CFL after the first week of games. He had 33 pass rush snaps, which is tied for third, which means his pressure rate, he had 9 pressures on 33 pass rushes. That's 27.3%. That was first in the CFL, and he had 3 more pressures than any other player in week 1, which, by the way, it was Derek Parrish from the Toronto Argonauts who also was able to get in with 6 pressures on the quarterback. But if you go down through the list of quarterback pressures and the pressure percentage, it's Betts, then Derek Parrish, Isaac Adeyemi-Berglund, Jonah Tavai from BC as well, Malik Carney from Saskatchewan, then it's Sean Oakman from the Montreal Alouettes. Falarna Rimolade in Calgary had a pretty good game in his re-debut with the Calgary Stampeders. Clarence Hicks had a good afternoon as well because that Hamilton offensive line was struggling a little bit. Andrew Chatfield Jr. from Toronto, and then Lawal Uguak from Montreal as well. So that is your top 10 in terms of quarterback pressure rate, the guys who are getting home or at the very least getting very, very, very close. Nobody got closer than Mathieu Betts in that week 1 matchup against Edmonton. And now the question becomes, you don't have Zach Collaros to face on the other side. What exactly can he and that defensive line do to disrupt? Because talking to Dave Dickinson last week before the Calgary-Hamilton game, he said the 2 most important things he believes in the CFL, quarterback play and pass rush. Because if the quarterback is the most important thing, you have to be able to disrupt the other team's quarterback. Well, Mathieu Betts obviously knows how to do that at a very high level. I would not be surprised to see him get, if he plays the same way with the same speed and ferocity, sure, you're going up against a Winnipeg team that knows him well. Yes, you're going up a team that's rested, that isn't banged up whatsoever because they haven't played a game. Betts feels like he could have a sack or 2 coming up tonight on Thursday Night Football. So excited to see how that all plays out. And of course, at the end of the week, as I already detailed, the Montreal, Ottawa, and Calgary, Toronto games, Saskatchewan, Hamilton. Now, I did see a couple of fans frustrated because it's a 4 p.m. kickoff Eastern time in Toronto. Hamilton is a 7 p.m. kickoff, retiring Garney Henley's number. And I get it. I get it. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. There's part of me as somebody who is calling one of these two games that kind of loves the fact that it's like the CFL owns like the GTA for that Saturday evening, and when it comes to sporting events, it's like just down the road from each other. To think that there's almost two games simultaneously happening, really cool. But there are people who do have an interest in going to both games, especially when there's teams from the West coming in that you don't get a chance to see live all the time. I even saw some people saying, hey, I'm a season ticket holder on social media to both teams, which if you are, massive respect. Like that is going above and beyond in the best way possible. If everybody that loved this league was a season ticket holder to Calgary and Edmonton, or Toronto and Hamilton, or Saskatchewan and Winnipeg, I don't know, I'm just thinking about combinations here, all Labor Day rivalries, but man, that would be unbelievable for the league. So I feel for the people that aren't going to be able to get and watch Calgary because you wanted to go to the Hamilton game to see Saskatchewan, or if you are going to the Hamilton game and you really wish that you could see, or sorry, other way around, if you were going to the Toronto game and you really wish you could see Saskatchewan come into town. I mean, I guess the good news is Saskatchewan's sticking around. They're playing against Toronto next week, so you don't really have to worry about that one all that much. But should be a great week of football. Looking forward to week number 2 across the CFL again. I've got Calgary, Toronto in that afternoon kickoff in Toronto. By the way, I also love a June afternoon kickoff. A Saturday afternoon June kickoff. That I hope there's a lot of families there. I really do, because that's such a great situation to be able to. I wish we always did essentially afternoon kickoffs or 1 p.m.s or whatever, even if it was, these Saturday matchups and when we have the odd Sunday game. But yeah, should be a lot of fun. So looking forward to hosting that one for you. For now, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Looking forward to the games coming up this weekend. Thanks again to Fox 40 for supporting everything with Canadian football perspective. Again, fox40shop.com is the place to go if you want to be able to get yourself all suited and booted in Fox 40 stuff.